on a typical day, are you mostly in level 1? Are you mostly in level 4 or 5? Most people are probably don't realize that they're probably around a 2 to 3 in between there.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Campfire Capitalism. I'm your host, Desmond Dixon, and today we have an amazing guest, Miss Emily Harman, and she has 34 years of service to her country as both a naval officer and civilian and federal employee, retiring as a member of the Senior Executive Service in May 2019. She's a bigwig, everyone. She's a bigwig. Now, as a certified professional coach, Emily helps her clients transform their dreams into reality so they can create a life they love while achieving new heights of authentic success. In addition, she helps entrepreneurs create more freedom and time for themselves, their relationships, and health while positioning their company to accelerate results and win government contracts. Sounds like an amazing journey. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thanks, Desmond. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, yeah. So when I first met you, I was like, man, like I loved your mental modeling around positive intelligence. And then I found your journey pretty interesting, like going from being the Navy and a federal employee all the way to being an entrepreneur now. And it sounds like you're an entrepreneur a little bit by choice, right? Usually people in your position just fade away in the sunset. So kind of talk to me about going from the Navy to being an entrepreneur and a little bit about your journey real quick.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, when I was growing up, I was a basketball player, and my dad said, if you guys with the kids, if we focused on our sports, we didn't have to get a job. So I never really had a job. My job was to really be good at basketball. And I was, and that helped me get into college. It helped all three of us get into college. So I go to the Naval Academy, and 38 years later after I joined the Navy is when I retired. So I graduated from the Naval Academy in the 6th class of women. And there were about 72 of us in the class. We started out with 109 in a class of 1,300. So I've been the only woman in the room many times, working in a male dominated environment. And I was stationed on a ship, and then I got into government contracting as an officer. And then I ended up getting out of the Navy on active duty. I became a reservist, and I joined the Navy working as a civilian. And I worked my way up in the ranks. I was a contracting officer negotiating contracts for airplanes for the Navy and the Marine Corps and the avionics that go in them, things like that. And then I became the director of the Office of Small Business Programs for the Department of the Navy. So my boss was the Undersecretary of the Navy. I worked, for him and the Secretary of the Navy, and with the acquisition teams, figuring out the best ways to maximize opportunities for small businesses to do business with the federal government. And that was really cool. It was not on my top 1,000 list of jobs I wanted because it required public speaking, and I was terrified of public speaking, and it required event planning. But when I took that job, I realized that those are my strengths. I really love public speaking, and I love, using my entrepreneurial spirit. That was a job that was more entrepreneurial because I just had some more flexibility, not like contracting rules that are so strict. And when I retired in May of 2019, 3 years ago, pretty much today was my first day of retirement, everyone was telling me what I should do. You should go be a consultant for federal contractors and help them win contracts. And I noticed it just made me go, I don't want to do that. What is it that I want to do was something that was kind of hard to come up with a little bit because I had been putting everyone and everything else ahead of me. I had been a single parent. I'd been raising my kids. I had challenges with raising them. They're both doing great now. And I just had been through so many tough challenges that my dreams, who is Emily? What does Emily want? Kind of got buried in that. And so I did figure out I wanted to be a podcast host, and I just celebrated 3 years of podcasting and 199 episodes. And so my public speaking with small business led to that, right? I became an entrepreneur. So I wanted to be a coach. I've always mentored people, and I wanted to learn about coaching and coach others. And so I did that, and I love it. And along the way, I learned some things about how challenging it is to be an entrepreneur, to be a solopreneur, to be the leader of a company. I saw it from the side of government contractors coming and approaching me about doing business with the government. I saw the stress and the anxiety and the challenges they faced. It's hard to win government contracts. It can be. And so now I see it from this perspective, and I've learned some tools that can have helped me and that can really help others. So that's a little bit about my journey, Desmond.
Man, I know it's so fascinating. So when you took the leap into the podcasting and the coaching, like what's the what's the zone of genius or the area that you love to focus on? Like you mentioned, like the anxiety the energy that you were feeling from, a lot of these small business owners that were approaching you about the federal government contract. So like, talk to me a little bit about your zone of genius and some things that you see, in the marketplace specifically.
Well, at first I thought, that my podcast would be I would interview people on small businesses on how they were successful in federal contracting. And I just decided I kind of wanted to get away from that. I'm really more interested in the human side, the self-leadership side. But some of the things I see, I've heard people talk on your show about this. It's the same with doing business with the government. You might be really interested in your product and really attached to it, but you haven't taken the time to talk to the customer about what they need, right? You're just there to try to sell something to them, and you haven't established a relationship. You don't even know what they need. That's the same thing in doing business with the government. So relationships is just as important in the federal government. So that's one thing I noticed. And another thing is, I've noticed how our minds can say, they didn't return my call. I know why. They're not interested in what I'm trying to sell. Well, sometimes we just believe what our mind is telling us. We are not our mind. We are the observer of our mind. And so we need to stop and say, well, what else could be true? Maybe my email went to junk mail, which is a lot of times what happened with the way the federal government email is. It's kind of strict. So sometimes it went to junk mail. The person didn't get your email. Maybe they're really swamped. There's what else could happen? Maybe they're in the hospital with COVID. I mean, you don't know. So our minds can defeat us before we're even really defeated. We're not defeated, and we believe it. And so that's something I noticed, is that the contractors that establish relationships, followed up frequently, just keeping you informed with what I'm doing, keeping touch base with you, what's going on in your neck of the woods, what are the challenges you're facing. Those are the ones that were successful, and the ones that also were able to not just believe everything their mind is telling them.
Man, I'm literally reminiscing about a time where that happens to me. Like, I feel like no matter what level of entrepreneurship you're in, if you're doing 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9, 10, whatever, that voice, that fear, that story pops up, and it can be so sneaky sometimes. Like, for instance, I think I don't know if this is fear or not, but I categorize it as fear, or I look at it as fear, is when I hide behind my own biases to back up my story of why I should or should not do something. Like, I'm pretty well convinced in my head, oh yeah, I'm not, I could just continue to do it this way, besides challenging and thinking differently. Right. So,
right.
Yeah. I literally just struggled with that yesterday. I had to whip myself. I was like, okay, you need to pivot, Desmond, do this instead.
Yeah.
So what's your advice for entrepreneurs out there who are dealing with that confirmation bias that's feeding something that's probably against their self-interest in the long run, like a bad habit or something?
Yeah.
Or attachment to something.
I think self-awareness is so key, right? I know that when I worked for the federal government, my whole career pretty much, I think because of the way I was brought up, not in a bad way, but my mom was just always busy. Do something, always busy and achieving. I was rewarded, in my mind, I was rewarded for achieving, for being a good basketball player, for getting a good grade. And so achieving and checking things off my to-do list and staying busy were things that I was conditioned to do. Maybe not. I mean, I'm sure that they didn't say, let me raise a daughter who's this, and this way. It's just the way it is. And it's the way I reacted to them, the way I saw things. And so that continued. So looking at our our past patterns and seeing if they even serve us anymore. Because when I retired, this is what my thinking process was. I cannot wait till retire because then I won't be as busy. I'm tired of being so busy where my job and my boss is just driving me to stay busy. And I can't have in-depth conversations with people. I can't do this and that. I'm not able to exercise as much. It's my job. So I retired and I was busier than ever. Okay. I was busier than ever starting my business. One day I was sitting at my desk and I thought, I guess I could have gone hiking today, but it was a habit. It's a pattern. It's kind of like a baby elephant who's tied with a tiny little string to a tree and doesn't think it can move. And when it's an adult, it's like you're just trained. So self-awareness teaches us to take a look at that, to stop. I thought I was too busy to stop. I thought I didn't know how to stop. I wanted to, but I didn't know how. And that's something that I've learned is that so I had to look at myself because I didn't have a boss to point to but me. I didn't have a job to point to but me. I was the one making the work. So then I saw my life differently. It's me. And I started working on myself. And when you work on yourself and you change yourself, your whole external world changes too. And now I have as much or more to do than I did when I was a senior executive. And I accomplish it in ease and flow. I accomplish it in less time. I accomplish it not feeling stressed because I know more about how my mind works, and I know myself and I know my mind, and I know that I can. I didn't think I could. I know that I can't. I am not my mind. My mind doesn't have to run me. And that's what that positive intelligence coaching program that I'm getting ready to be certified in is all about. You learn a little bit more about your mind and how you can create new neural pathways in your brain. We have these automatic reactions. When this happens, because it happened once before, then this is how it's going to be. And that doesn't have to be that way.
It's deep. Man, I'm about to do some work this month. I need to do some inner work. So let me ask you this. So I think this is a perfect segue because I have another interesting question to ask you. So, you talk about this positive intelligence and really having that self-awareness of your mind. Let's take it one step further to a little bit two-dimensional. And I want to ask you about how does this correlate and dance with the right energy when you're interacting? And then how does that energy then affect your business, which is three-dimensional, right? So tell me the relationship between that self-awareness and understanding your energy, and then how that energy then can translate into growth in your business or, deeper relationships or whatever like that.
Okay. Yeah. I just did a webinar on this because my coaching is I'm a certified core energy coach, and core energy coaches believe that change starts within us. Like I had just said, I thought it was the world that needed to change. This is going wrong. This is going wrong. I'm too busy. It was me. And then everything else was fine in my perspective. So with energy, if you look at the world put your glasses on and they have a green tint, the world's going to look green. If you change it to blue, the world will look blue. So there's 7 different energy levels, and our energy level is based on that. We usually react to situations with a certain energy level, and it's based on what's happened in the past, how we were brought up, our past experiences, our current experiences. That's how we see the world. And so the first level of energy, I won't go through them all, but is, your core thought is you're like a victim. It's like everything else needs to change. If that changed, then I would be fine. You're the victim in this situation, and your core feeling is kind of apathy. And then you're kind of lethargic and you don't really feel like doing anything. That's like the lowest level of energy. And you're just like, I give up. It's too hard. I don't know what else to do. That's that level. So you're looking through the world with a level 1 energy lens, noticing that and learning how to switch to maybe a level 6 lens, which is more joyful and stuff. It impacts your thoughts. So I can't go into it all in this podcast, but a level 2 is conflict. That's a little higher energy because you're really in conflict with somebody, and someone cuts you off on the road and you think, oh, that jerk, or my boss is a jerk. Well, maybe they were Russian. What other options could there be that that person cut you off? It's not all about you. So, we tend to react in these certain ways. I spent a lot of my life, I think, in energy level 3, which is I'm fine. I just push through. I can make it. I'm good. It's people. You see the glass half full. I'm usually an up person. That's kind of level 3 energy. There's 7 levels. You can experience life through more levels than that, and more levels in level 3, and you can choose your level if you're self-aware. And our energy is contagious, right? Like if I came to this podcast interview, like, hi, Desmond. Yeah, I'm ready. You'd pick up on that, right? I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to go. But, how are your employees are picking up on your energy? And so the assessment that I can give through my coaching program, it's a proprietary assessment, but it's this energy leadership index, and you answer questions, and based on how you answer the questions, it will tell you throughout the day, on a typical day, what energy levels you experience. We all experience all of the energy levels, but it's a matter of, on a typical day, are you mostly in level 1? Are you mostly in level 4 or 5? Most people are probably don't realize that they're probably around a 2 to 3 in between there. And then it shows you another bar chart, which under stress, where you go. And then it tells you your average resonating level of energy. So imagine knowing, as a leader of a company, what's the average resonating level of energy for my leadership team? Because that energy of your leadership team is contagious. And so what if you knew what that average resonating level is? And that's what I like about this program. You might think to yourself, yeah, I hardly go to level 1 that often, but when you become more aware, you realize, I do that a lot. Or you might think, I don't go to level 1. So I know I go to level 1. This is when I go to level 1. A lot of times I'm in level 5, which is somebody who can see all the options. I see so many options. I could do this with my business. I could do this. This is what I could do with my podcast. I see all these options. Then I get overwhelmed and I go to level 1. F it. I just can't do anymore. I'm done. So how long do I want to stay in level 1? And am I aware that I'm in level 1? And am I in level 1 by choice, or by, because I need some rest and I just need to chill? And, maybe I could even do that from a higher level. Or am I level 1? Because that's the way I always react in this situation. Maybe somebody else, when they get overwhelmed, they go and yell at their wife or kid. That's level 2. So being aware of that and knowing that you can pick those, and you don't have to react to the circumstances around you. You can choose your energy level. Learning how to do that is life-changing.
Man, I was wondering the entire time. I was like, man, the energy levels. I wonder if it's abundance. Is abundance on that in those levels? Like
abundance. I think a level of abundance would be probably level 6, kind of like we all win. Level 7 is like the gurus, right? No one wins. It's not really real. It's okay. We're all, and so the gurus are like maybe at energy 7 a lot more, but it's the level of just like pure passion and then and joy. And another thing I think we think a lot of times is, in order to feel that, I got to be on vacation. I can't be in my house. And I used to think that, like I used to, when I was raising my kids, we would go camping just to get away. And so I don't have to see the laundry and my to-do list and stuff, and I could really relax more. And and when I retired, my coach said, I thought that I would find that just automatically being retired, but no. So my coach said, you can find that level of joy in your own condo, even though, it may not be as neat as you want it, or you can find things wrong. You can find that level of joy there. And I didn't really believe it until I did. So we are always looking outside ourselves for that joy. Like, let me buy this purse. Let me buy this new car. Let me buy this new house. If I have that, I'll be happy. Once I achieve this, I'll be happy. No, you can be happy right where you are. And the reason I like to coach on create a life you love living now is because right when I retired, 3 weeks later, my daughter called and told me her dad had cancer. We had been divorced, but I helped take care of him because 2 weeks after his diagnosis, he was paralyzed in both arms. He was 64 when he died 5 months later. And I know that he died with regret. He didn't talk a lot, but I could see what he was thinking. He was regretting he was not thinking about his friggin' to-do list. I'll tell you right now. He was not thinking about what should be on his website or what, all the things that we spend all day thinking about. Who do I need to call? How do I make a sale? He was thinking about his relationships. He was thinking, who was I being while I was doing? He wasn't thinking necessarily what energy level was I in, but that's kind of like understanding who are you being while you're doing. You're a human being. So what's important is the relationships, the self-actualization. So much more important than, getting the next sale or whatever. And so I saw that. And that really changed me. And I thought, we can create a life we love living right now, not waiting until I go on this vacation or waiting till this happens, or once I make 7 figures, then I'll be happy. Nope. You can already be happy now. You can find that in yourself. We all have it, that ability.
Man, I think that's important that we literally hold that. First of all, I thank you for sharing that. As entrepreneurs, like you said, we work so hard of getting to the next goal and doing it at all costs, and like all the focus and energy goes into that. And sometimes we forget of why we're all doing what we're doing this for. And even
what's
like
important.
And this is an example, like I'm traveling the world right now, and it's like a lifetime, like a childhood dream of mine to do this. And it really took me 6 months to really value it and be present. And it was when I was finding myself working 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day at the business, where I was like, why am I doing this when I'm traveling the world? And I started to find so much joy in the little things, like going on walks in the morning where I don't have any calls. Like my mornings are to myself. I don't do anything anymore. I just go for a walk and look at the cloud. I sound super woo-woo, guys, but it just added so much more substance to my days, and it actually slowed my traveling down because it's crazy. So talk to me about, like, I already have some ideas what I love to do in terms of the help with my mindset, but I'm curious, like, what kind of tools or like practices that people can do to, really enjoy life a little bit more, right? To remind themselves to be present, to maybe look more than the glass is full, right? Like the glass is always, what I mean? So like, what are some tools that you can share with us that, can help some of these entrepreneurs and investors out there?
Well, I think first is, for me at least, and maybe others, is getting out in nature. Take your shoes off, get your feet in the grass, hug a tree. I mean, I'm serious. They all have energy, and you can just get out in nature and just realize, look up at the sky and you realize I'm just a little thing in this huge universe, right? Like it's really important that my website's updated today or whatever. But the other thing that you can do, which is what I learned in this positive intelligence program. So let me just explain this program a little bit. It's written by a book written by Shazad Shamin called Positive Intelligence. And it's about how we can strengthen our mental fitness. You are not your mind. You have control over your mind. We just don't always exercise it. And so there's an assessment that you can take. It's a free assessment. It takes you like a few minutes to take it, that will tell you what your top saboteurs are in your mind. We all have a judge. The judge judges other people, judges circumstances, it's good or bad, situations, and judges ourselves, our inner critic. You're probably really familiar with your inner critic part of your judge, maybe not as aware of how often we're judging other people or situations. Okay. So the judge will go recruit one of these 9 other saboteurs. I'll list a few of them. My top one used to be hyperachiever. And basically he says that these saboteurs tell us lies. So my hyperachiever does tell me a lie. It's like, if you achieve this, you're going to be happy. I achieved it. And it's like, not that. You achieve this, then you're going to be happy. Okay. I don't know how long I believe those friggin' lies. Okay. So the judge will judge a situation like, oh, this is a bad situation. She's got to achieve something. Let me go recruit that hyperachiever. So my hyperachiever has shifted to number 2. My number 1 is, which I didn't even really realize there was a name for it. I guess it's people might say they have ADHD, but it's the restless saboteur. The restless saboteur is always seeing all these options and looking for different things. And let me focus on this. Oh, let me go to this. Let me go to that. And they're strengths until they're overused. And then they become, when they sabotage you and your way of living in peace and joy, then it's not really a strength anymore. Right. So both of those, the hyperachiever and the restless, when you're in those being sabotaged in your brain by them, you're not really feeling your feelings. You're staying busy. You're ignoring your feelings. One of my guests on the podcast said, when you shove your feelings to the basement, they go lift weights. And they do. Like my feelings, I was so busy never feeling my feelings and stuff. And I knew that. It's one of the reasons I retired. But when Bruce died, they all came up. The feelings from the divorce in 2002. All these feelings that I just hadn't felt, it all came up and I felt it. So you got to feel your feelings. In order to let them go. But other saboteurs would be pleaser, somebody who's putting everyone else first. Mm-hmm. I have that saboteur. Victim, stickler, got to dot the I and cross the T kind of thing. Controller, right? Controller. So these others, so you can figure out what your saboteurs are, and there's an assessment. And then the assessment also tells you, another assessment that he has tells you what % of the time you're being hijacked by your saboteurs. And most people are being hijacked by their saboteurs the majority of the day, and without even realizing it. So once you know, oh my gosh, I've got these saboteurs, then what you do is you learn to strengthen your saboteur interceptor muscle, which is the ability to notice that you are being hijacked by your saboteur. Like you're like, oh, I look fat in this dress. Hijack, how do you catch that and not talk to yourself that way? And so how do you catch when you're judging somebody or a situation this is really bad. The guy didn't call me back. Hijacked, because there's another way of thinking about it. So you catch that, you strengthen that saboteur interceptor muscle, and then you strengthen your self-command muscle, which is the muscle that commands you to think of what other ways are there to look at this and to shift to your sage, which is, he's done studies, this is the sage part of your brain is located on the right side of your brain. So your saboteurs are in the left side. So you switch. So you're creating new neural pathways to say, I'm not going down this normal path of thinking that this is the only way it is. I'm going to create a new neural pathway to the right side of my brain that is where I find compassion, clear-headed thinking, inquisitiveness, ability to navigate in ease and flow. And so how do you catch yourself and how do you notice when this is happening? Number one, you take the assessment so you know a little bit more about your saboteurs. You read his book. You could go into a coaching program because you're not going to change something just by knowing it. You have to practice it. And then you practice what he calls a PQ rep, which is a short exercise. Like you might just take 3 or 4 deep breaths and then close your eyes and just rub 2 fingers together with such attention that you can feel the ridges in your fingertips, and you're quiet when you do that. And then when you're doing that, your brain is going to say, this is stupid. Your judge, this is stupid. You don't have time to do this. You're the head of your company. You're a solopreneur. You're trying to make millions and you're rubbing your fingers together. You say, nope, it's not stupid. And you self-command your brain to come back to focusing on this. So you're starting to train your brain, right? And you do a 2-minute PQ rep. That's a 2-pound weight, a 2-pound problem. You could do 15-minute PQ rep. You can handle even bigger challenges in your life in ease and flow and in calm. So that's just one way of doing that PQ reps, but consider you should be doing them throughout the day, doing them before you host a podcast, kind of centering yourself. Let me focus on this. So my mind's not wandering on all these other things. I'm not hijacked. And you'll find your day goes a lot smoother when you practice those PQ reps. And you don't even have to, you could do them in a meeting, rub your fingers under the desk so no one can see. You could do it when you're washing your hands, just notice the water flowing over your hands. It's about training your mind to be present and not thinking about the past or the future and stressing over it.
Boom. That's some good game there. I already have another follow-up question. Hope you don't mind.
That was a long answer to your short question.
That was good. In my mind, I'm like, Man, I'm definitely a curiosity sabotager, or the strictness, like being restrictive and like crossing T's
Stickler.
out the I's. I didn't realize how analytical I was, because I'm more analytical with myself than I am with other people, of like processes and systems and then controller. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize. I thought I'm like super chill promoter kind of energy, like, but I'm really more introverted and stricter than I thought, which is pretty fascinating as a revolution as an entrepreneur. But I have an interesting question for you, because this is something that personally comes up for me, and I love doing these podcasts because I get to like talk to really smart people and get something out of it too, right? I think that's the beautiful part, and share it with the audience. So personally, something I used to struggle with growing up was definitely anger, right? I was definitely an angry kid, right? And as an entrepreneur right now, there's definitely like flashes of moments. Obviously, you have a lot more self-control. Like, you're not going losing your top on people, right?
Yeah.
Like going around being, but temperament when dealing with issues, like things are unexpected in the business. Like, for instance, today, and they always feel like they come in waves. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's because your mind is focusing on everything that's going wrong around you, and you hyphen those things.
Asking what's next, or I'll show you what's next. The universe will say, "Here's what's next."
So, like, for instance, in the last 24 hours, like, I felt like 3 things just randomly came up that was just not planned. That just like kind of throws you off the course of a plan, and you have to. At first, my first instinct was I was about to blow my top. And like, it just like cut everything off, and not everything, but like just like chop. Like, I'm a cutter. Like if I'm dealing with an employee that drives me nuts or something like that, sometimes if I don't have the patience or whatever, my first thought is like, I need to like let this person go. I know that's not, I care about people, don't get me wrong, but when things bad happen that you don't expect, accountability, like but you have to nurture relationships, right?
Right.
That, or it could be a client too. Like, you're not listening. Like, can you listen so you can, you know what I mean? So you're dealing with clients, maybe want to cut a client. So how do you, like, what's some game to help stay calm? Because I feel like as an entrepreneur, you're on these bumpy roads. Like, I feel like once a month, there's like this episode that comes up where I'm like, feel like I'm about to blow my top. So like, what would you tell me in my situation, like, to deal with this calm?
I would tell you a couple things. I would tell you to ask yourself, what's it say about me that I'm getting upset by this? And you may not know the answer, and keep asking, well, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Instead of pointing at the other person, it's like, you have 3 pointing back at you, 3 fingers when you point at somebody else. So what's it saying about you? Why are you getting upset about that? Oh, it's triggering something that happened like similar when I was a child. So another thing that you can do is to, in the morning, take a walk, sit down, do a few PQ reps, and ask yourself, what's important about today? Who do I want to be today? How do I want to show up? And do you want to be somebody who's reacting to all these things things are going to happen? Or do you want to choose how you react and choose how you respond? Who do you want to be? Because it's not about what you get done. It's about who you become along the way. Who are you becoming? Who are you becoming? So here, let me just give an example. I gave it last night at the webinar. And sometimes we're just not even aware to ask. That's why I like working with coaches. If you invest in a coach who's working with the coach, because they're working on themselves too. No one ever got this all down. But recently, back in February, I went on this trip with this group called Explorer Chicks. It's just women that, want to go on a trip. Maybe they don't have friends that'll go with them. So they just show up together. And there was 15 of us, and it was snowshoeing, cross-country skiing and hiking. And one woman in the group was kind of telling the group leader what to do. And that was really annoying me. I was feeling uncomfortable. She's like, well, I don't know if I've been here before, and I think we should go on this hike. And I think we should do this. And is everybody here? I'm like, she's not the group leader. And so that was bugging me. Instead of focusing on her, my judge is saying, she's being this way. That's bad. How can I not be sabotaged by my judge? And how can I, approach this with compassion? So when I really looked at that, well, what's it saying about me? Well, I have a pleaser saboteur. My pleaser saboteur was being hijacked because I was uncomfortable for the leader of the group. Like, how is she feeling with this woman telling her what to do? That's none of my business. She's fine. She's an adult. She can handle it, right? But I was just feeling uncomfortable because I wouldn't do that. So it's not about her. It's about me and how I want to react and who I am, and getting to know yourself. If we could all do that, just think about how much better world this would be, because we're all going around taking out our frustrations on other people. And the other thing we learn in positive intelligence and in anything in life is you can find the gift or the opportunity in any quote unquote bad situation. There really isn't any good or bad. We might judge it as bad. How do you know it's bad? My kid's dad dying. Yeah, no fun. What's the gift or the opportunity in that? Someone gets so paralyzed with cancer, their arms are paralyzed. They can't feed themselves. They can't get up out of the couch. They can't do anything by themselves. They can't brush their teeth. They can't scratch the itch on their nose. What's so good about that? What's the gift and the opportunity in that? So I could be bitter. My kids could be bitter. The gift and the opportunity is that I'm now have a podcast about create a life you love living now. I'm living my life better and my kids are living their lives better. They so much more appreciate life having seen that. So do they want their dad to be gone? No, but they can find a gift or an opportunity to learn from that and not be bitter. We can do that with all of the situations in our lives. And I'm telling you, he was verbally abusive, didn't have a good relationship with me or the kids. That's what I know he was regretting when he passed away, based on a few things that he said and just how he was thinking. And so what do you want to be thinking when you're in that situation? So one thing that you can do is you can close your eyes and do a visualization. You might think it's corny, but athletes visualize all the time. Do a visualization of you, Desmond, visiting your elder, wiser self. And asking, what's important now? What would your elder, wiser self say is important now about who you're being with this employee that's frustrating you or whatever? And that's kind of a long visualization to get yourself in that clear mind and mode and not thinking about your to-do list. No, we're talking about you're going to go visit the elder Desmond and ask, what's important now? What's really important now? And you'll find it's not your to-do list. It's how you treat those around you and how you treat yourself. That's what you want to be thinking. Because Bruce was a workaholic. He worked a lot. He was very dedicated to his country, served in the Army, retired as a colonel, was serving for the Navy. He was really busy at work all the time. In fact, that's probably why he didn't get his cancer diagnosed until it was too late, because he was busy. In fact, when he was diagnosed, I'm getting frustrated now, but his right arm was hurting. So he knew that it was his rotator cuff. So he kept going to work in a lot of pain, finally went and got an MRI, which is when they found 2 tumors the size of tennis balls in each lung, one in each lung, one in his kidney, and innumerable throughout his body. They found that, but the next day he went to work until they called and said, you've got to come in for surgery now, because his C5 vertebrae was a tumor. So really, what's important? Work? I don't think so. It's who you're becoming and who you're being and how you're going to feel on your last days.
Man. Whew. Man. That puts life into perspective. So, yeah, it's like, think about other people and think about like how you want to leave an impact on this planet, and no regrets. Man, that's deep.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's a matter of making that time to think about that. We're all busy. We all got stuff to do. So one thing you could do too, when a situation comes up at work, like you're frustrated, your anger is coming up. What's the gift and the opportunity in this? for me to further my self-awareness, for me to further my self-actualization, for me to become who I really want to be, more of myself. What's the opportunity in this for me instead of being pissed off? And that takes strengthening your self-command muscle so you can even stop and even ask yourself that. And so in handling this situation at work, which is important, how do I also keep my mind on the bigger picture, which is I'm always trying to improve myself and how I impact others. So that's how you can use those challenges to your as a gift or an opportunity right then and there.
Boom. All right, I'm taking that one with me. Good thing I don't have anything to do for the next 5. I chose not to do anything for the next 5 days. No meeting. So
good. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a lot of journaling. I'm gonna journal right after this episode, guys. So if you're driving, don't journal yet. But hopefully this was a really good episode.
Well, Desmond, one thing I wanted to say is, I see a lot of people talking about how to win contracts, how to do B2B, how to do all this stuff, how to attract clients, how to do all this stuff, and how to win government contracts. And to me, there's more to it than that. It's like, who are you being as you're doing that? I don't see that talked about a lot.
Who are you being while you're doing that? Because you're the common denominator in all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's deep. We might have to do a part 2, but this was good. I learned. I'm walking away feeling different after this episode. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving us a ton of value. And
good. I'm glad.
Yeah, it was really good. Covered a lot. So how can people find you? Talk to us about your podcast.
Yeah.
And let's go there.
Basically, you can just go to my website, which is Emily Harman, HARMAN.com. And you can find my YouTube channel from there. You can find my podcast from there. You can find my coaching programs from there. You can schedule a meeting with me. And then also I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So connect with me on LinkedIn, Emily Harman, HARMAN. And I'd love to talk with you and see how I can help.
Boom. So that's going to be in the show notes, guys. So if you're driving, wait, but definitely go check out Emily. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Desmond. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So guys, once again, congratulations. You made it to the end of the episode. I thank you for giving us your time, which is the most precious resource on the planet. Definitely go check out what Emily's doing. I mean, she just dropped some major game on us, and you could tell that she's doing this from a place of abundance, from her heart, because she had a really successful career, and this looks like her life's mission. So go check out what she's doing. Go check out her podcast, and we thank you for coming, hanging out with us around the campfire. We'll see you at the next show. Peace.